No royal staff, no cameras, no press alert, just Princess Catherine, a single white lily, and the quiet island at Althorpe, where Princess Diana rests. Captured at 10:17 a.m. BST in a grainy long-lens photo, Catherine was seen alone. Head bowed, eyes closed, emotion unguarded. The palace called it personal and unscheduled, but the world called it something else. Powerful. Within hours, headlines exploded. Social media lit up. Was this tribute, statement, or something deeper? One silent moment, no words spoken, yet somehow everyone heard it. And now, the world is watching what comes next. The surprise grave visit. No announcement, no press, no motorcade, just a still moment that stunned the world. At exactly 10:17 a.m. BST, on a quiet day in 2025, Princess Catherine was seen standing alone at Althorpe House, the private island resting place of Princess Diana. Captured only by a distant paparazzi lens, the future Queen of England appeared in a navy coat, head bowed, holding a single white lily. The image was grainy, yet unmistakable. It wasn't staged. It wasn't official. And that made it powerful. Sources later confirmed the visit was unplanned. Catherine had quietly adjusted her security detail, requesting minimal presence. Just 2 close protection officers who remained out of frame. The visit happened hours before a routine engagement in nearby Northamptonshire, which only raised eyebrows further. Was this a personal detour, or something deeper? When questioned, Kensington Palace issued just one sentence. The visit was personal and unscheduled. Nothing more. But the silence said everything. The visit came at a delicate moment. The monarchy was facing scrutiny. Approval ratings had dropped 8 points in the most recent YouGov poll, and senior royals were limiting appearances amid rising media pressure. Yet Catherine walked straight into the public eye in the most vulnerable way possible, without fanfare, without control. For a figure known for poise and protocol, this quiet break from formality felt unmistakably intentional, and the timing only added weight. Just days earlier, the calendar had marked 31st August 1997, the anniversary of Diana's tragic death in Paris. This year marked Catherine's 10th year as Princess of Wales, the same title Diana once held. It was more than coincidence. It was a convergence. And whether guided by emotion or strategy, the message was clear. Catherine had chosen this moment to stand not behind Diana's legacy, but beside it. What followed wasn't ceremony. It was something smaller, and somehow much greater. As cameras scrambled and headlines formed, the public's attention turned to one question: what exactly happened during those silent minutes on the island? The scene at the grave. The island at Althorpe House, surrounded by calm water and shaded by old trees, has always held a certain stillness. It's been Diana's final resting place since 1997 and is rarely visited by the press. But on that quiet September morning in 2025, it became the center of the royal world again. Because Catherine had come, and she came alone. She stepped out onto the island without ceremony. Witnesses described her attire as simple: a long navy coat, flat shoes, and no royal insignia, no tiara, no brooch. Just Catherine as a daughter-in-law, not a future queen, not a headline. She walked slowly to the grave, carrying only a white lily, a flower tied to Diana's memory for decades. Placing it gently on the tomb, she bowed her head. Then she closed her eyes for 47 seconds. No words, just presence. A small detail caught the attention of one nearby staff member: a single fallen leaf resting near the stone. It had come from Diana's favorite tree on the property. an aged oak planted decades ago. To those who noticed, it felt symbolic, as if the past itself had joined the moment. Around the grave were scattered bouquets left by the public, some addressed to Diana, forever our queen, and others marked to Catherine and William, with love. The moment didn't separate them. It joined them. As Catherine turned and left, those present described a striking silence. No spoken goodbyes, no flashbulbs, no procession. But one detail was impossible to ignore. Her eyes, slightly red, damp. A rare break in the polished, poised figure the public is so used to. One witness later said, "She looked like a woman who had just made peace, or a promise." For a monarchy trained in restraint, that was more than emotion. It was a message. But perhaps the biggest message wasn't spoken or staged. It was felt, and within just hours, that feeling spread far beyond Althorp's gates. Around the world, people reacted. Not to a press release, not to a speech, but to a photo, and it moved millions. Immediate public reaction. The photo began circulating at 12:39 p.m., first posted by a French paparazzo known for royal sightings. By 2 p.m., it had gone viral. The image of Catherine alone at Diana's grave, head bowed, hands clasped, spread across social media with hashtags like Catherine at Althorp, #4Diana, and Princess to Princess. Within 6 hours, the story was front-page news in the UK, Canada, Australia, and even Japan. The reaction was swift and overwhelmingly emotional. Royal watchers called it the most human appearance from Catherine in years. Commentators praised the visit as authentic, unfiltered, and deeply symbolic. Newspapers headlined, "Princess Catherine's quiet tribute, more than duty." For a monarchy often accused of detachment, this moment felt different. It wasn't about power or pageantry. It was about memory. And millions felt it. But not everyone interpreted it the same way. Some older critics questioned the optics. Why now? Why alone? Was this tribute or a message? Had Catherine stepped beyond her role, speaking without words about her own place in the royal legacy? As one columnist asked in The Times, was this salute or subtle statement? The line between personal grief and public positioning was suddenly under debate. Still, the public mood leaned sympathetic. Catherine, known for her reserve, had shown something rare: vulnerability. And in doing so, she bridged a gap that had long haunted the monarchy, the gap between duty and emotion, between Diana's spontaneous warmth and the cold systems around her. Catherine didn't try to replace Diana. She didn't have to. In that moment, she became a connection, a continuation, and the world responded. The royal household's response. Inside Buckingham Palace, the photo changed everything. By 3:30 p.m. BST, senior aides had called an unscheduled meeting to assess the fallout. Though Catherine's visit was personal, the impact was undeniably public. The Lord Chamberlain's office, responsible for managing royal appearances, issued a directive to press aides. No further comments. This remains personal. But inside the palace walls, there was no mistaking the shift. Catherine's quiet act had just stirred something much louder. For years, Catherine had operated in a space of support, present, polished, but rarely disruptive. This visit, while soft in tone, had broken the rule of royal control. Never surprise the public, never surprise the institution. Some within the palace feared she had stepped into symbolism too deliberately. An internal memo, circulated by 10 p.m., warned press staff to prepare for increased global attention on Diana's legacy, including old footage and past controversies. The emotional undercurrent was impossible to contain. Among senior royals, reactions were mixed. One insider from Clarence House described the move as unexpected but beautiful. Another from St. James's Palace was less kind. Emotions make headlines. Headlines create chaos. Yet many could not deny the public response. People were moved. The public saw the visit as an act of humanity, not manipulation. And in the age of cold institutions and falling polls, humanity was rare. The monarchy had been given a rare, unscripted gift. The question was, would they embrace it? As the palace struggled to respond with unity, Catherine's image quietly solidified. The moment felt too authentic to be spun, too still to be scripted. And in a family that once seemed to bury Diana's memory beneath formality, this was a spark, a pause that reopened a conversation long left in silence. But the conversation didn't end within palace gates. Across continents, news outlets and citizens alike picked up the image. And what they saw wasn't just a princess at a grave. It was a global connection being reborn. Why this visit resonates globally? It took less than 24 hours for international coverage to explode. Media outlets from France, India, Japan, and the United States picked up the photo. Middle Eastern broadcasters discussed the image as a gesture of royal humility. On royal watcher sites across Asia, commentators praised Catherine's ability to embody the soft power of emotion. For many, this wasn't just about Britain. It was about a woman remembering another, across time, titles, and generations. The timing made it even more significant. Diana's death on 31st August 1997 remains one of the most widely mourned events in modern history, with more than 2.5 billion viewers tuning into her funeral. Catherine's visit came less than a week after that anniversary, and it marked exactly 10 years since she became Princess of Wales, a title that had remained emotionally charged ever since Diana held it. Those two timelines colliding gave the visit emotional weight that couldn't be denied. What the world saw in Catherine wasn't just grief, it was connection. The woman who would one day be queen had chosen to stand, quietly, at the grave of the woman who never got to be. That symbolism wasn't lost. Articles titled "The Future Queen and the People's Princess" ran on front pages from Toronto to Sydney. And across digital forums, people wrote of being unexpectedly moved, in tears, and grateful that Diana is still being remembered by someone who seems to care. Even more remarkable was how aligned this moment was with Diana's values: charity, empathy, youth. Catherine's own work in early childhood development, mental health, and addiction recovery has often drawn comparisons to Diana's trailblazing compassion. But this visit made the parallel unmistakable. Catherine wasn't just reflecting Diana's legacy, she was stepping into it, carefully and with purpose. The world noticed, and many hoped it wouldn't be the last time. But even as public support surged, the palace faced a new kind of challenge: how to manage this rising wave of emotion without letting it overtake their tightly held narrative. And more importantly, what would Catherine do next? What it means for Catherine's role. The visit to Althorp changed more than the conversation. It changed Catherine's place within it. Until now, she had been largely defined by her role as William's wife, a mother of heirs, and a steady royal presence. But her appearance at Diana's grave signaled something more. It suggested Catherine might be stepping forward, not just as a future queen, but as guardian of Diana's memory. For the public, That role carried more emotional weight than any title. Royal analysts began speculating that Catherine's public image was quietly evolving. Her first 10 years as Princess of Wales were built on stability, diplomacy, and silence. But this visit, unannounced, unsanctioned, suggested a pivot toward independence. She wasn't just supporting William, she was shaping her own message. And in a family known for carefully planned optics, that kind of move was bold. Analysts on BBC, Sky News, and even CNN International discussed the moment as a defining shift in royal branding. This new position also raised expectations. Would Catherine return to Althorp each year? Would she speak publicly about Diana's influence? Would she take on new charitable roles directly tied to Diana's work? Royal insiders hinted at growing discussions around launching a Diana-linked initiative under Catherine's patronage, something that might serve as both tribute and forward-facing action. Nothing was confirmed, but the pressure had quietly begun to build. What Catherine had done wasn't political, it was personal. But in the context of monarchy, the two are always connected. She now stood at a symbolic crossroads between the legacy of a woman loved by millions and the responsibility of being the monarchy's future face. That's what made the visit resonate. That's what made it dangerous. And that's what made it unforgettable. Risk, strategy, and interpretation. No royal action happens in isolation, even the quiet ones. Inside palace walls, Catherine's unannounced visit to Althorp wasn't viewed only as heartfelt. It was also scrutinized as a strategic risk. For decades, royal visibility had been shaped by controlled moments, carefully timed, stage-managed events crafted to prevent headlines from running wild. But September 2025 shattered that formula. Catherine's decision had been her own, and for senior advisors, that was as concerning as it was compelling. Some royal aides feared that emotion, no matter how genuine, could be misread as political. One internal memo reportedly stated, "Symbolism carries weight. Unplanned symbolism carries consequences." They worried the timing, just 6 days after Diana's 1997 death anniversary, and amid slipping royal poll numbers, might be interpreted as commentary on the institution's failures to honor her legacy. A soft rebellion, even if unintended. Catherine hadn't said a word, but the silence was louder than most speeches. The visit also stirred debate over precedent. If Catherine could make such a move without coordination, could others follow? Would this open the door to more unsanctioned gestures from within the royal family? Already, staff were reviewing upcoming appearances, keen to ensure they didn't compete or clash with the emotional resonance of the Althorp moment. As one royal strategist put it, once you let emotion drive the narrative, you can't control the next wave. Still, some viewed the move as necessary evolution. The monarchy has to feel human, a former palace press officer said. If it can't respond emotionally, it won't survive the modern world. Catherine's visit, they argued, was not a misstep, but a message. The future of the crown may not be colder. It may be closer. And that, for a public fatigued by distance, could be exactly what was needed. But it left the question lingering. What would Catherine do next? And that question soon led back to the heart of it all, Diana. Because the visit hadn't just reignited a conversation, it had reopened something sacred. The memory of a woman who still shaped the world from beyond the grave. Public memory and Diana's legacy. Since her death on 31st August 1997, Princess Diana's grave at Althorp had been both a destination and a symbol. Visited by thousands annually, it was more than a memorial. It was a pilgrimage site. But Catherine's visit reframed the space. She turned it from a place of remembrance into a bridge. Not just between the public and the monarchy, but between two generations of royal women, separated by time but connected by compassion. The global coverage reignited interest in Diana's legacy almost overnight. Online searches for Diana's charities rose by 320% within 48 hours. Streaming platforms re-released her documentaries. Bookstores reported a spike in sales of biographies. People weren't just mourning, they were remembering. And now, they were watching to see how her legacy would be carried forward. Catherine's quiet tribute had created a ripple, and it was reaching places no royal statement could. More questions began surfacing in media circles. How well was Diana's legacy actually being preserved? Who manages her archives? What happened to her letters, her interviews, her speeches? And perhaps most pressing, who speaks for Diana now? The monarchy had long avoided definitive answers, but now that Catherine had stepped into the spotlight, even briefly, the public wanted clarity. If the future queen was visiting the past's most beloved princess, what came next? Inside Althorp, caretakers received a flood of requests from members of the public asking if Catherine's visit would become annual. Some fans left fresh flowers, marked with notes like, "We remember through her," and "Diana lives on in Catherine." The grave had transformed again, not into a spectacle, but a space of continuity. Diana's story was being told in a new chapter now, and Catherine, quietly and with grace, had become its narrator. But a story like this doesn't end in silence. It ends in a question, one that the monarchy can't answer for her, and one the world is now waiting to hear from Catherine herself. The Unanswered Questions and Worldwide Watch. Why did Catherine visit now? Was it simply personal grief, a quiet tribute, or a deliberate signal to the public? In the aftermath of the visit, no further statements were made, but the silence did little to stop speculation. Commentators debated whether she would return next year, on 31st August 2026, and whether the visit might become tradition. Some even wondered, would she one day bring her children? Would George, Charlotte, and Louis learn about Diana by standing at that very stone? Observers noted that Prince William, though not present this time, had made similar solo visits to Althorp in the early 2000s, particularly in the years following Diana's death. Would he now join Catherine publicly, marking a shift in royal openness, or was the visit meant to remain sacred, shielded from press and protocol? Every decision that followed would be read through the lens of that one photo, quiet, still, unforgettable. The public, now fully invested, started pushing for more. Would Catherine speak about Diana in future speeches? Would she establish a formal initiative in her honor, perhaps linked to mental health or women's empowerment? Petitions emerged online within 72 hours, with supporters requesting the launch of a Princess Diana Legacy Fund under Catherine's patronage. While no official reply came, royal aides noted the timing is being discussed. Across the globe, even foreign royals responded. Members of the Jordanian royal family and Queen Maxima of the Netherlands reportedly sent quiet acknowledgements through diplomatic channels. What had begun as a single visit now carried global weight. Catherine's silent tribute had become something larger, something she may not have intended, but could no longer step back from. And as the world waited, one thing became clear. The visit had ended, but the watch had only just begun. Catherine's next step. In the days that followed the visit, Catherine returned to public life as if nothing had happened, attending a youth charity event in Birmingham by the 9th of September, dressed in green, smiling softly. But something was different. Reporters noticed a shift, not in her words, but in the way crowds looked at her. There was more warmth, more protectiveness. As one supporter at the event said, "She's carrying something now. You can feel it." Within palace circles, discussion turned to Catherine's evolving identity. For over a decade, she had mastered the art of elegant neutrality. But the Althorp visit changed the tone. It showed that she wasn't just filling a role. She was shaping one, not merely inheriting the legacy of Princess Diana, but embracing the responsibility of keeping it alive. Some aides quietly suggested that her visit marked the beginning of a new era for the Princess of Wales. Future plans are still unknown. There's no confirmation of annual grave visits, speeches, or Diana-themed initiatives. But even without a formal declaration, something has shifted. Catherine is no longer simply seen as the monarchy's future. She's now a bridge to its emotional past, a living connection to a woman the world still mourns. And in an institution built on history, that makes her powerfully relevant. One photo, one visit, no press, no words. Yet somehow, Catherine's steps onto that island at Althorp said more than 1,000 headlines ever could. As the world watches what she does next, one thing is certain. The future queen just reminded everyone why they loved the people's princess. And perhaps why they might grow to love the next one too. Catherine's quiet appearance at Diana's grave wasn't just a visit. It was a spark. In a monarchy built on tradition, this simple gesture broke through the silence with raw humanity. Global audiences saw more than a future queen. They saw a daughter-in-law reaching across time to honor a woman the world still mourns. It reignited questions. Will Catherine return? Will Diana's legacy now be formally embraced in new royal efforts? Was this a turning point? Not just for Catherine, but for the modern monarchy itself? Inside the palace, some saw risk. Outside, millions saw truth. What began as a private moment has become a public reckoning. In an era where control often overshadows connection, Catherine's unscripted tribute reminded us what royalty can still mean: grace, memory, and meaning in a single breath. And now, with every appearance, every word, the world watches. Not just for Catherine's next move, but for how she carries Diana's legacy forward.